Good afternoon, everybody. It's so great to be here with you again. My name's Evie Botelho. This channel is a part of the Peak Prosperity channel, and I'm coming to you on this beautiful, sunny, fallish day on Thursday. What is the date today? August 22nd, I think. Wonderful to be with you again. I'm really grateful that we get to spend these afternoons together, and today I'm coming to you at least where I'm at today, and I'm invite you to think about where you are and just take a breath and sort of take a beat and check in with yourself. So, I have been in planning mode, which is for the most part for our big event that's coming up this fall and actually in September, and that should be really fantastic. We're going to have a couple hundred people up in New Hampshire with us on Lake Winnipesaukee to celebrate together and enjoy each other's company and have some really good and difficult and perhaps otherwise censored conversations that are difficult to have online with each other. So that is something that Chris and I are both really looking forward to. We live here on a farm in Western Massachusetts for anybody that's new to this channel. Um, we live here on about 250 acres, and we both are trying to farm slash homestead in addition to having our own online business called Peak Prosperity. You feel free to visit that and check it out. We've got a wonderful community there that's learning everything from how to can vegetables in your garden to how to install solar on your home, and in general, how to be more resilient, and not just in physical ways, but also in spiritual and emotional ones as well. Um, Chris and I enjoy taking care of our animals here, and we're looking to leave a legacy behind that is, I guess, helps the world to be a little bit better for the next generation. And we realize that everything we've been blessed with is something we then need to pass along. So that's what we're up to here on this little patch of the beautiful earth. But so we're planning this big gathering in September, and then we also have our wedding coming up in October. So frankly, I have been a little bit frazzled. It's just part of what happens to me when I get stressed out is my brain seems to work less well instead of better. And when it's crunch time, if I get over the tips of my skis, so to speak, with just too much in my head, I just start to feel really ungrounded. So I'm gonna take the time today to just take a few deep breaths and try and let it all go, because this is wonderful that we get to spend this time together. I'm actually really thrilled about it. And unfortunately, it was a little bit difficult to sort some technical things out today, but in the future, I want to give you an update. I think next week I'll do it. Just a update on what's going on here on the farm in terms of pictures, and just do a little bit of a show and tell with you. I took a bunch today, but it was hard to transfer them. It's so stupid that we have these devices that, like, one's an Android and one's an Apple, and they can't seem to talk easily. So, um, anyhow, as soon as I get these wonderful photos uploaded, I will share them with you. And essentially, what's happening now, right at this time on our farm, is that, you know, just in the last couple of days, it started getting chillier. Like at night, it's going down to like 50 degrees. Um, and you can just feel it in the air, and this mist starts to settle into the valley and hangs, and you can actually see it in the morning when you first wake up at sunrise. It's still there, and it's really beautiful because the sun is trying to shine through it, and it just illuminates this mist, excuse me, all around the mountain, right across from us. And fall is in the air. It's just coming on here. I love the fall. I think it's one of the most beautiful seasons. And I find that it's just a naturally kind of reflective time. And so it's kind of fitting that I'm preparing at the same time for this big event, for getting married to the man that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and say these words to him and make these promises to him and to myself and to God, and with all of our really close friends and witnesses present. And that's super special. So I'm truly looking forward to that. And I'm doing a lot of inner work to try and prepare myself for that in the meantime, because I feel like when there's a big change that's about to happen and you're cognizant of it. Sorry, I can't talk today. It's nice to have that lead time because then you can anticipate it, but also think about what it means and really let it settle on you in a different way than when something happens out of the blue. And I think the beauty of having a ritual that a teacher once said to me was that first you have a ritual or a ceremony, and then that ceremony has you, meaning you set that intention, and the minute you sort of decide you're going to do it and release into that, that some kind of magic happens and takes up the space of that. And I feel like that's kind of the universe or God co-creating with us. And I'm just so grateful to be feeling all of the inspiration that I am, and also just this really deep love and appreciation for my life. I have so much gratitude. And for those of you that have known me a long time, you'll know that I've been through some things. It's not like I had an easy life by any means. So many of us have huge challenges that the rest of the world doesn't even understand that we carry. And so it's just such a pinnacle to be at this place I never thought I would be, where I'm getting to be with my soulmate, and it's just so incredibly special. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time as well, because it's been about 5 years. So anyhow, I've been just having my head in that, so I'm a little bit frazzled, but here nonetheless. How are you doing today? What's going on in your life? How are things? What's happened in this last week for you? How are your kids, and how's your family and your job, and what's the weather like where you are? I read some of your comments this last week, and you guys are the greatest. I just can't get over what kind of wonderful kindred spirits are on the other end of this internet. It's just incredible to me. Um, and so I wanted to share a couple of them with everyone who's here with me today, because it was just we had a great conversation. Again, it was another kind of down to earth, this is where I'm at kind of conversation, which sometimes I think we all need to hear or need to witness each other in, because that's life. And I don't have the talent that Dr. Chris Martenson has of just sitting here and uh, bringing to mind all sorts of incredible ideas and facts just off the tip of his tongue. Every time he makes one of those videos that you may have watched on YouTube, he's never doing a second take ever. And it really doesn't get edited either. So it's just like, I I live with a master, and so when I sit down and try to do this myself, it's a little bit more challenging, but nevertheless, I feel like we get to have this special time together. So I just want to honor that, and I'm grateful for it. And I do read what you're suggesting and saying in the comments. And thank you so much for everybody that participated in that. One person said, that was such an open and honest talk. I've never experienced that online before. The poem was the icing on the cake. Thank you. Another woman named, I think it's a woman, Child of God, she said, Lord, I pray that you would give me the strength. I know that being a single parent is not always easy, but with your help, I'm confident that I can do it. I also ask for your help in providing for my sons, emotionally and physically. Lord, I struggle every month to provide for my sons. I'm overwhelmed. Give me strength. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for your grace and loving, tender care, and for always being there for me and my children. And Child of God, I just want to say I appreciate your message, and I understand that place of just being at your wit's end, trying as hard as you can, running as fast as you can with what you have, and trying to be there for your kids and create a better life for them. And it is a prayerful endeavor to raise children, especially at this time in our world's history. And I love your sentiment. It really touched me. So thank you for that message. Another person said, I enjoyed your program today. Thank you for sharing your heart. An additional person said, I would like to also say Chris is doing a great job heading the assassination debacle. I hope he continues his quest for truth and accountability. First time listening to your show, found it very interesting. I'm thankful for YouTube and the help and support I've gotten regarding psychological learning. There's a vast amount of help for those of us in a bad place. and a bunch of suggestions about what I might do at a future show. Thank you so much for that. Miker Work said, "Thank you for sharing your honest struggles with this life. Everyone needs to hear someone else express and validate what they themselves are struggling with. This is very encouraging and promotes a healthy relationship with reality." I couldn't agree more. Mrs. Deciduous said, "One of these days I'm going to catch the live. I was close today. My sister and sister in law and my daughter have all experienced POTS, which I was discussing last week, which is um, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, I think it's called. And when you stand up real quick, you feel like you're going to faint, and sometimes you do. Um, she says, "Look into the healing with raw milk. I'm trying it and starting to feel better. As for your daughter, remember her cells are still inside you. You will always feel your children and sometimes their emotions. Maybe someday you can have her at your property and homeschool her. Please don't regret your experience with your previous partner. Your children came out of that experience, and maybe that's the reason it happened. I'm also feeling the pain of separation. My youngest, whom we adopted, was not making good choices and is in a residential treatment center. I miss my buddy, but he's where he needs to be. Blessings to you." I can't imagine what it's like to have a child struggling with that, but sounds like you're being incredible supporting him, and I will keep you in my prayers. Another person said, "You are blessed to have the land and garden. As much as I would love to sell my house and move to the country, as an older single mom, I know there's just no way to. We do a backyard garden, but are in Texas where it's been over 100 degrees. It is a losing battle." It's from Krista Lawrence. Krista, I I feel you with the heat. I can't get out there. Actually, I took some photos today of our garden, and it's a little bit overwhelming or even embarrassing because I just feel like I just lose control at the end of July, or excuse me, mid-August. It just goes insane out there, and I feel like my vegetables and fruits or whatnot are just kind of on their own, whereas in the early spring I have all this attention and time and space and really baby them at the outset. When I plant them, I'm always like, "Oh wow, they're not going to get that big. I can put them close together." And like, wrong. Like, I have some tomato plants that honestly are taking up like half of a bed. It's insane. I totally get it. And as far as moving to the country, I think it's one of those things that unfortunately, because of finances, because of the state our country's in, because of, just the crappy economics of it all, but also the logistics for many of us being a single mom, being an older single mom, having one income, it's really difficult to pick up and make a new life somewhere. I didn't have that luxury either when I was a younger woman, and I really understand that and I get it, and I think it's about doing the best you can with wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you can't relocate to a better place. It's being able to find the blessings where you are, I think. And that's what I'm trying to do here too, because there are things that aren't awesome about our farm here, and one of them is that there's n- there's not a network or a community of farmers in Massachusetts anymore. Most of the farms are pretty much gone. And so if we were trying to get local, you know, pasture raised meat, if we weren't growing it ourselves or harvesting it, or doing our own animal husbandry, it would be a really tough thing to try and find that out there. um, and the other difficult part in relation to food is that we don't have whole food places nearby. There's a company called Azure Standard, which you can sort of get together with other people and they'll do a big drop off to like somebody's garage or whatnot. And you can buy in bulk that way. But if you're just going to the grocery store and you're trying to buy bulk, it costs an arm and a leg because it's all, packaged for smaller. And so smaller quantities. So, I find it hard logistically sometimes to go and find things. And, we've been working on a root cellar here. We buried a storage container and, outfitted it so that it would be watertight and or, insulated where it's exposed to the outdoor air. And we're just looking for a couple things. And it's just crazy how hard it is to find parts. Certain things that are pretty regular in construction are hard to come by. It's interesting to me how our how stretched our system already is in terms of um, things being in stock and being able to get them easily. So we had to drive all over the state, and it was okay. But there. My point is, there are pros and cons. I think no matter where you live, it can be challenging. There's always something, and one of the things that I find really challenging about Massachusetts in particular is that our regulations are just insane. We have a book of building code and other things that's like this thick. And so if you had the intention to try and do some small thing on your property on your own, you just run into all these issues. Building inspectors, people will come and be like, no, you can't do that. Or you have to apply for these permits, and the permits themselves are like hundreds of dollars. Like it's not cheap at all. And luckily for us, I think more and more we're learning about what rights we have as a farm in Massachusetts. And there are many places, I think, that are similar where you have what's called a right to farm. And so they'll allow you, because they really shouldn't be able to stop you anyway, but they'll allow you to put in a shed or have multiple cars that you don't take on the road, but you use on your farm. And so you're not paying the same kind of insurance and or plate fees on all of them. Like they're just little things that are supposed to be helpful. But yeah, Massachusetts is essentially the Department of No. And some days it really gets on our nerves. Some days we're like, did we pick the wrong spot? Um, because not that it's left right, but for the record, um, the majority of the voters here seem to be blue, vote blue. And in the past, I wouldn't have cared about what that meant. But right now, with everything going on, I'm a little worried that the people that are in charge have just lost their minds, bottom line. And that scares me a little bit. So we're trying to work with what we've got going on here and make the best of it. We've got this fabulous helper named Norman Soley from Alaska. He's working with us here on the farm and lending us his skills and his gifts. And he's a builder and he's done so many other jobs. And he's helping us sort of sort through all of the regulations and such. Thanks for that, Norm. And and that actually takes a little bit off of Chris's shoulders because Chris already has too many full-time jobs. Um, but it's tough to live. It's tough to live in these United States, isn't it? I'm finding it a little hard. And some days I'm like, are we gonna end up being that family that at some horrible moment in the future will be like, wow, we should have left? I mean, I've honestly thought this lately, which is a little bit shocking, but to myself. But I feel like that's what it takes to keep yourself and your family safe. You have to ask yourself those questions, and hopefully, for the most part, the answer isn't yes, right? Hopefully, I'll be overly worried about something that's not going to happen and I can relax. But with all the things they've been talking about, the monkeypox crap, and I mean, just trying to hype that up and rolling out more of these, things that you get in your arm, and I just don't want to be around the madness, but I don't think we have a choice, honestly, as people. I think no matter where we go, especially because of the world of the internet, I don't think there's a place you can escape it. And at any rate, I feel like it's important, at least for me personally, and I think Chris feels this way too, is it's really critical for us to stand our ground here. And so we're endeavoring to do that. We're really trying to take and put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, to be living the life actively that we're talking about on here. And so everything that we suggest when Chris has said like plant a garden, it's because that's what he feels will make every household that much more resilient. And whether it's a huge garden or it's container pots you put on your porch, everybody can do a little bit. And I think it actually does make a difference. And that sort of information about how to grow something and how to observe it and be with it sort of trickles in over time. I've been gardening I was gardening when I was a kid. I feel really thankful for that. My mom always helped me sort of learn that and forced me to weed when I was younger, but it helped me to get to know the plants and the weeds and to recognize things. And it became a language that I think because I learned it early on, it's more second nature than it would have been. And I think that's really important. At least do what you can and I think other than that, what I'm finding is that I just have to put my life in God's hands. I I grew up with a pretty strict religious upbringing or structure. And then when I was a teenager, and I think for significant reasons, I was like, I got to walk away from this. I can't just take this as gospel without doing a bit of my own searching. And so I went on my own journey. And as some people do that grow up in that kind of a world, sometimes they'll leave and then they'll come back. And after, they've um, searched and looked at the world through their own eyes and decided what the truth was for them. And so that's exactly what I did. And I find myself more and more drawn deeply to spirituality and just trying to understand, like, what is this all about? Do you guys ever find yourself there too? Like, I think about it daily. Like, how can I live my life in a way that is congruent with what is good and right? How can I be of service to the world at large? What's the next thing I need to be thinking of? How can I challenge myself? How can I grow the talents I was given? And just on and on. And I feel like that's something that I think the creator gifted me with, which was this desire, this hunger to kind of know the truth, whatever it is, even if it's not good. But I just want to know what that is. I want to know, and I can't know it for anybody else except for myself. But I'm always endeavoring to understand things, and it's part of my nature. And so, if you are tuning in to this channel in the future, some of it's going to be about the garden, sure, and about what we're doing here on our homestead, our farm, of course. And like we're going to be breeding our cows this fall, and they're going to be babies next spring. There's going to be a lot going on that's really exciting that I want to share with you. And I'm interested in having deeper conversations about what makes us feel human, what makes us feel alive. Today, as I was prepping for this and imagining what we would discuss, I was thinking about what is home to me? And I was curious about what home is to you. How do you know when you're home? What are the things that make you feel settled and grounded and in a routine and, surrounded by something that allows you to kind of let down and not have to be postured for the world anymore? And so I'd love for you to tell me about that in the comments. I'm sort of studying the idea of home because one thing I'm noticing as I'm reflecting on getting ready for getting married and stuff like that, and I'm thinking about my past, of course, the relationships I was in before, the children that came out of those relationships. What is it I want to take with me into this future place? Like, who am I going to be in this next phase of my life? And what are the good things? What's the gold and what are the gems I can extract from what sometimes feels to me when I look back at it like a pile of rubble, um, or ash. And and there are so many good things that I can draw from that. But at any rate, I find that I'm really trying to understand how to go into this ritual of getting married with all of my heart and all of my head with me, and spirit as well, guiding me to do what feels right. And I'm thankful that I think I'm going to have some friends with me the night before, and we're going to get together up at the waterfall and make a fire. I want to make a fire for some reason, like right there, because the rocks kind of hold the space really beautifully. And I think the light will reflect off of those rocks when it's dark and also off of the water. And I want to do some kind of just little ceremony for myself and acknowledge where I've been and how much I've grown and what my intentions are, which in some respects, I think it's not all that different from what we've already been doing. But on another level, I know that when we give our word, when we make a promise or a covenant, there's something really powerful and potent in that too. And so I'm excited for that. And I also am feeling called to prepare myself for it. So, um, anyhow, that's what's been on my mind. And I would love to hear about what's on yours. I sometimes I'm not sure I have anything super important to say or share. I think that comes from my own lack of confidence or not understanding what I bring. And I just want to say that I really appreciate everybody that commented about, like, you can see me and you can see me in a way I can't see myself for some reason. And you help me to realize that I am gifting something of myself being here, and that there's a reason that we get to spend this time together. And I'm sure that we're going to discover it together too, more and more as we go along. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so happy that you get to be here with me for this little period of time that we get to be together. And I look forward to reading about your experiences in the comments as I trigger thoughts and memories and ideas as I'm sharing mine. And hopefully this can become more and more of a conversation. Um, Speaking of conversations, one of our good friends was here visiting. He may not be able to make it to our wedding, and so he shared the poem, or a poem with me that I wanted to share with you today. And he has a nom de plume, which is called Frank X. You can search it out. He wrote a book. Frank X wrote a book called Oceans of Wine on the Drinking Life and Leaving It Behind. That's the name of the book that the poem's in. And I just thought this was a really beautiful place to leave you today. It says, yours will be a particular loneliness, a wandering long on laurel paths, because herein lies your woods to walk, your swamps to broach and skirt. There's no map, no compass, no GPS. This route won't show up on Google Earth, and though few would give a penny for it, even less, more likely a scoff and a curse, you'll be the one whose feet will sing. You, and perhaps only you, will know its worth. Thank you so much for joining me today here on, or I guess it's Gardens of Evie on the Peak Prosperity sub channel. Thank you so much. And I really hope you have blessings this week. I look forward to reading your comments, and do take good care of yourself and those that you love. And I will see you again next time.